Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be delving much more into making an estimate for a building project. So with that beautiful home you've wanted to build in a long time, I'm going to show you most of the details when it comes to making an estimate for a building. We've already done a previous version already where we delved into making an estimate for the foundation of a structure, where I think most of the things weren't included, so I just wanted to add few details to make you guys really understand when it comes to making an estimate for your building, because some people have really contacted me about some of the estimates and I think they really got confused along the way. So I'm just going to break it down. It's not really going to be detailed, but I'm just going to brush off. So if you want the detailed one, you just have to visit the previous video so you really understand what we are talking about. So I think that's it. Let's get into this video, but just give me a like and subscribe to the channel. So we actually know we are making a very good progress with these kind of videos we are making. So let's get into it. Okay, so in today's video, as I talked earlier, we are going to delve into making detailed estimates for a construction project. That means your home that you're trying to build. I'm going to teach you how to make a detailed estimate, so you actually have like a benchmark or some estimates you're looking at, a realistic one, of course. So before we even start your construction, there are certain things you have to factor into your estimate. Building is not just about putting a structure up, but there are certain things that also come or eat into the cost. So one is actually before you even start your construction, you have to get your contractor or maybe a consultant to come to your land or to come to the site, do some site investigation. So with the site investigations, that's where we actually know the type of soil we are dealing with, the slope of the land, the various characteristics of the land. We also come to do their soil checks, maybe bearing capacity, whatever it is. That's where we actually start in the investigation. So we have to have all of these details before we even start with the design. That's the structural design, even architectural design as well. And also before making an estimate, we have to know all of these, whether the land is waterlogged, there's clay in the soil. All of these also have to be really important. That's why we have to do our site investigation before we start with everything. After the site investigation, the next thing you have to do is to get both the architectural and the structural design drawings. So you have to get these two, structural and architectural. So these are the drawings so that we submit to the assembly for them to start processing your building permit. So you have to get an expert or a specialized professional to draft this for you. So in case you also want to do both of these drawings, you can just contact me and we can actually work something out. So after getting these drawings, submit to the assembly, they process it, but before they process it, you have to just pay something little. So I think for this we all know about that. So let's actually get into the video. So as I mostly do, I prepare these Excel sheets that really helps me when I'm making an estimate. This is not how the Excel sheet really looks like, but it's quite like a sample. The detailed one contains most of these technical terms, which is really gonna get you guys confused, but I actually make this simple one so that I really understand what I'm talking about. So as I discussed earlier, you have to have your architectural and structural drawings ready before we even start making an estimate, because you can't make a detailed estimate without these two drawings. So I have mine over here. So I have this app open over here. So this is the plan swift. The plan swift really helps me when I'm doing my taking off, as in taking off the quantity of or the volume of concrete, the volume of excavation to be done, the volume of concrete for me to measure the cement bags I'll be using. This plan swift really helps with the taking off. It's much faster and makes it very easier. So building an estimate doesn't really take long due to this plan swift here. Most of the QS really use this software. If you know how to use it, plus if you don't really need to bother yourself to learn about this. We can actually do that for you. So with this plan swift, you're taking off everything over here. So let me show you like a 3D picture of the building I'm really talking about. So there's it. This is actually the initial rendering we did, so it doesn't really look that realistic, but the final one looks much realistic. But I can't really find the file, so let's use this one. So this is actually like two separate building kind of joined together, so we say semi-detached, and we have this single unit over here. So this is actually what we'll be designing. This single unit, you'll be making an estimate for that one instead. So let me actually give you different views so you know what we are really talking about. Yep, so that's it. So let's go back to our Excel sheet. Where's the Excel sheet? Okay, so this is it. So before we start, I've actually divided my Excel sheet into various sections. We have the material section, the labor, the plants you'll be using, and also our storage structure. So this storage structure is where we are going to be keeping our cement, our various tools you'll be using on site that we actually have to keep it in a safe place. And there are various things that we actually have to look through over here. So let's just get started. It's quite similar to the previous one we did, so I'm just going to brush through. So with our materials over here, we have our setting out. So the setting out is just transferring the plans from the drawing sheet onto the land. So before we transfer the plans, then we have to draw these lines that are going to pick like alignment where we transfer the blueprints from the sheet to the ground. So we know where to place our column, where to do our excavation and all these kind of things. That's a setting out. So with the setting out, we need some tools. So first of all, we need the wire board. We'll be needing 15 pieces of that. So the wire board is used to just enclose around the building space to actually place the nail on top, tie it with a rope, and we pick the alignment. So this wire board, you need them before starting your setting out. And we are going to need 15 pieces. A wire board is costing around 180 cedis. We're actually in September 2025, and these are some of the modern costs of materials. It might increase or decrease as the time goes on, but this, as in September 2025, that's what the cost of one wire board is. So you actually be buying 15 pieces of that. So this Excel sheet has been done in a way that this is where the item description is, the unit, the quantity that's required, the rate, that's the unit rate of that item, and the amount. The amount is just the rate times the quantity. So how about 15 pieces times 180? You get a total amount. We also need 2x4 pegs. The 2x4 pegs is just used to erect the wire board. And for that, we will be needing 16 pieces. A 2x4 peg is costing around 20 cedis. Tiling cement. This tiling cement is used for marking out on the land. Most of people will try to use sand, but it's not really visible. The tiling cement is whitish and it's very visible, so I prefer to use the tiling cement. So one bag is okay. It's costing around 70-80 cedis. You can get one tiling cement. We also need rope. This rope is what you'll be using to pick alignment when setting out. So you need two rows, and a rope is costing around 10 cedis. The masonry rope is 10 cedis, so 2 is like 20 cedis. Nails, you need a box of nail, probably 2, 3 inches and 4 inches. We will not really use all, but yeah. So a box is costing around 65 cedis. You just multiply by 2 to get your amount. And workmanship for doing your setting out. With a setting out, you actually need a qualified person to do the setting out. If you get someone who's not really qualified, your building is going to be looking crooked and all of these. So when you're starting, you have to start right, and you have to get a very good contractor to do that for you, not just any ordinary mason. Someone who is really good at what he or she is doing. So workmanship, 2,000 cedis should be okay for doing your setting out. So this is just for the setting out materials you'll be needing. So once we are done with the setting out, we do the excavation too. So with the excavation, is under the labor cost, so it's under here. So I'll just come back to that. So let me just talk about the excavation. So with the excavation, with this unit, everything has been done per. So every company has the rate company uses in building their estimate. So with excavation, we do it per cubic meter. So the cubic meter is the length, the total excavation length times the width times the depth. You get a cubic meter, and the rate for a cubic meter is 50 cedis at our place. Some also use 40, some use 60. It just depends. So 50 times the quantity, 35 cubic meters. That's for this foundation layout. So with all this foundation, the excavation we are just going to be digging, the total cubic meters is 35 cubic meters, and just multiply by the 50 to get the amount. So this excavation, there's not really a lot of excavation to be done. So 1,750 cedis should be okay for the excavation. This is not really fixed. You just have to know how to bargain with, the guys. Some might say 2,000. You just have to bargain with them to actually bring it down. So it just is you. So we have that. And we also have our concrete works. With the concrete works, this involves the pad, the strip, the starter column, and also the overside concrete. Anything that involves concrete has been included under the concrete works. So just like the excavation, we are going to get a cubic meter, the total cubic meter, and we are going to calculate the number of bags of cement you'll be using for the concrete works. So you'll be using 150 cement bags, and we'll be using the 42.5 hours. So we use the 42.5 hour for concrete works and 32.5 hour for block laying, for plastering. This is where we use the 32, but for concrete works we use 42.5 hour, and the 42.5 hour is quite expensive. So like 110 cedis, 150 bags. You just multiply to get your amount. And with the sand, you'll be needing 10 cubic meter. 10 cubic meter is a single axle track. The big track is the double axle. The double axle carries 20 cubic meters. So I'll be needing 10 cubic meters. That's a single axle. I just multiply by 150. 150 is the price. I just converted the 20 cubic meter to a cubic meter, and every cubic meter is costing around 150 cedis for your sand. So the double axle track is costing around 3,000 cedis, and that of chippings too is costing around 3,400 cedis. It actually depends on the location. So with the chippings, this is the volume of chippings I'll be using. That's a 20 cubic meter. That's a big double axle track. I just multiply the 20 by 170. I've converted to a cubic meter rate, so that I get my value for the entire concrete works. And when it comes to the block works, you have to lay some blocks in the foundation. These block works, you have to raise it above the ground level. The block works should be above the ground level, like around 2 cores or 3 cores above the ground level. This is to make sure that your building is above the road level, so that in case there's rain or excessive rain, or in terms of flooding sometimes occur in places like Accra and these kind of places, not just Accra. So you have to make sure your building is above the road level, so that in case of rain overflow or something, the rain or the water, the runoff water wouldn't really penetrate or enter into your building. So your building must be higher. So we are going to lay 6 inches solid blocks, and we are going to use 500 pieces in the foundation. So 500 pieces, a 6 inches solid blocks is costing around 9 cedis, 50 pesos. You multiply to get your amount. Cement, you'll be using the 32.5 hour for block laying, and you'll be needing 12 cement bags. So you just multiply by 95. I told you earlier that 32.5 hour is less expensive compared to the 42.5 hour. And also for the sand, for the block laying, you are going to need 4 cubic meters. So 4 times 150, I get the volume of sand, the amount of sand I'll be needing. And coming to the reinforcement, because this is actually a story building, that means the ground plus first floor, most of our reinforcements are the 16 high tensile. Some might decide to use the 12 mm, but just that you need more pieces of the 12 mm, like maybe 6 pieces. But with the 16, I can go with like 4 pieces. You don't just have to just go about with the number of bars you'll be using in the building. This is the duty or the responsibility of the structural engineer to determine the number of reinforcement, the size to be placed in either the column or the beam. So with this, these are the total reinforcements I'll be needing in my building: 10 mm, 12 mm R, 12 mm T. So this R and T, the R is the mild steel and the T is the high tensile. The high tensile is much more stronger than the mild steel. The mild steel is soft, not soft per se, but compared to the high tensile has a high tensile rate compared to the mild steel. So in terms of like story buildings, we try to use the high tensile, but we're actually trying to use the various reinforcements to also look at the cost. So 10 mm, 12 mm R, mild steel, 12 mm T. These are the number of pieces we'll be using, and this is the rate per a long rod of that iron rod. So for a 10 mm rod, the price is 38 cedis. At the moment, we are in September 2025. The price might either increase or decrease as time goes on. 12 mm R is 56 cedis. The 12 mm T, the high tensile, is 113 cedis. The 16 mm R is 99 cedis. 16 mm high tensile is 200 cedis. And we also have our BLC mesh. So with the BLC mesh, we lay it on top of the ground before casting the overside concrete or the ground slab. So before we cast the ground slab, we lay this mesh. This mesh is placed like 25 mm from the top of the ground slab. This mesh is used to just handle the tensile resistance in the ground slab, since concrete is quite high and very strong in compression but very weak in tension. So in terms of any cracks in the ground slab, this mesh is going to handle all of that. And we also have ground beams too. So all these reinforcements, the reinforcements include the ones in the mat, the starter columns, the ground beam, and the mesh too. So we are done with the reinforcement. So you just multiply it by the unit rate to get the amount. So our next item here is the hardcore filling. The hardcore filling, we just fill into the block. Where since the block has been laid above the ground level, you have to fill the void in there with hardcore filling, and the trip is costing around 1,300 cedis. So at least you'll be using 2 or 3 trips. So if it's 2 trips, you just multiply to get your rate. Disposal, after you are done with construction, you have to take some of the unwanted materials from the site. This also has to be part of the cost. We have our DPM over here. With the DPM, we lay it on top of the ground before casting the overside concrete. This DPM is to prevent the infiltration of water from the ground into the overside concrete. More water into the concrete sometimes cause the concrete being weak sometimes. So this DPM is to prevent any water ingress or water rise from the foundation into the superstructure. Some also try to use the DPC to the improve cost under the blocks before laying the superstructure blocks. They just place the DPC before laying the blocks. This is also a perfect way of preventing rising dampness if maybe the area is waterlogged. We also have the waterproof paint. The waterproof paint, we just paint the block works in the foundation to prevent water from just infiltrating into the block works to rise into the superstructure. So this waterproof paint too has its own cost, and a bucket is costing around 850 cedis. So just multiply the 850 cedis by the number of buckets. It depends on the type of waterproofing paint you are buying. Some are much more expensive than this, like 1,300 cedis. Some are less expensive. So it depends on what you really want and what your budget really demands. So the next item here is a plumbing. So in the foundation, we try to just insert everything in the foundation before rising to the superstructure. So in the foundation, we have to place our pipes and all of these things, because we don't really like our pipes to run along the building. It's better to have your pipes and everything inside the foundation before even starting to raise your superstructure blocks. So we are going to make just a provisional sum for plumbing to be 4,500 cedis just for the materials alone. 4,500 for your pipes, or 4 inches pipes, or 2 inches pipes, or 3 inches. Everything, all of these pipes will be included in the provisional sum. 4,500 should be okay. And we need our formwork. So the formwork is the wire board we'll be needing. But remember earlier during the setting out, we bought some few wire boards. We bought 15 wire boards. So as a way of just mitigating or just making a way through the cost, we try not to buy another wire board. After the setting out, we can just take off that wire board and just reuse it. But either we need like 2x4 for the formworks, for the column formworks, and we need another set of 2x4. For the 2x4, we need 10 pieces. So we need a 2x4 wire board, and the 2x4 wire board is costing around 80 cedis. You just multiply it to get your amount. marine board, I didn't really place a quantity for that. So these are things which wasn't really necessary in the estimate. I just took them out. And you need nails, 3 inches and 4 inches nails. So 2, a box is costing around 65 cedis. You multiply to get that. And this right here has been highlighted in yellow for a reason. So in construction, sometimes you have to be buying water for the construction. If there's no water available, we have to buy water. So I just inputted 0. That means we are not really buying water. Or to prevent this, and you want to just factor for the future, so you can just pay for the borehole to be drilled on your land. So once the borehole is drilled on land, we can use that borehole water during the construction. Even after the construction, you can be using that borehole water. So borehole, the cost for drilling a borehole costs around 20,000 to 25,000, depending on your location and how deep they will have to go to get water. So even after that, if the water is very salty or very dirty, they have to do their reverse osmosis. There's also an extra cost. But sometimes, in the case you're just using the water for bathing purposes and also washing purposes, you can choose not to, just do this reverse osmosis, but use the initially, drilled water. So this site has been provided for Ghana water. If you do not want to drill the borehole, we can just go by Ghana water and take this borehole drilling from the cost. And this is a biodigester septic tank. So you're building any waste substance from the building, we also have to have a place that is going to. You have to have a septic tank there. If you make a professional sum for the septic tank, and it's costing around 7,000 cedis, and transport for everything. So once everything has been bought, you have to transport them to the site. The materials will not really move themselves to the site. So this is just the materials needed, and I've made a total over here. So let's move to the labor estimate. For with the labor tool, we have rates that we use for just doing the labor. Instead of the first standard, I was saying maybe you need 3 laborers for this, you need 2 masons for this. Once you have the total cubic meter, we have rates that you just multiply to get the total amount we can be paying laborers for this specific work. So with the concrete, we have a cubic meter, which I took from the plan script I showed you earlier. So the quantity is 30 cubic meter, and the rate for casting a cubic meter is 120 cedis. So some use 100 cedis for the ground floor casting, and maybe 130 or 140 cedis for column casting. It depends on the company working on your building. So 120 cedis per cubic meter. You just multiply the number of cubic meter to get this 3,600. So 3,600 cedis is the amount you'll be using for concrete casting. So the laborers, the mason, the concrete mixer operator, all of these are factored into this. We have our block work over here. So block work per day, a mason is supposed to lay 100 blocks a day. So a mason is taking 200 cedis, and the mason works with a laborer 150 cedis. So 200 plus 150 is 350 cedis. So per day they will lay 700 or 600 blocks. So you have 7 days. You just multiply by that to get the amount. And also we have formwork too for the carpenter. Is per square meter, you have that multiply by the rate, the quantity by the rate. We also have filling. When they are supposed to do filling, we have the rate for that. Waterproofing paint, rate for that. Steel bender too is per ton. So per ton is taking 900 cedis per ton. So based on the total ton of reinforcement, so with this bit we have 2.5 ton. You just multiply by 900 cedis, or if it's 1,000 cedis or 800 cedis per ton, you multiply to get the amount for the steel bender. And I think we talked about the excavation already. And this is plumbing. So this is a plumbing estimate. Just a professional sum you place for the labor of the plumber. So 3,000 cedis should be okay, but you also can bargain to get a very good deal. And we have our plant over here. This is the backhoe. So backhoe, this is the rate, but I'm not going to use the backhoe in this construction because the backhoe is quite expensive. And also, even after excavating the trenches, you need the laborers to just give that shape for the trenches. So it costs a lot, unless maybe it's a very big project. So we have the concrete mixer over here too, and you'll be using it twice a day. The concrete mixer is costing around 600 cedis per day. So 2 days, you know what you are getting. And we also have our storage structure over here. The storage structure is where we store our cement and those delicate materials that can be damaged by rain and also all these kind of things. So if maybe you have a place already, we can store these materials. We don't really need to put up any storage structure. We can store it there. But once we don't really have that, and maybe the site is in a village, or the site is a new place that we don't really have any structure there, we have to put up the storage structure to store the cement and other delicate materials. So these are the things needed to put up that structure. And that's it for just for the foundation course. So this right here is a summary of the entire work. We have our material total over here, and we have our workmanship total over here. So with this, let me just zoom in so we have a better look at this. So with the material cost 116,309 Ghana cedis, this Ghana cedis, and this for the workmanship. So with everything, we try to find a miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is like a provisional amount of money that we place for certain things that arise during the construction. So these are just a miscellaneous amount, 5%. So the miscellaneous is usually 5 to 10%. So we decide to use the lowest, like 5% of this, 5% of that. That's a miscellaneous. And the profit percent in terms of the company overseeing the construction, or the contractor doing handling your project. Every contractor has a profit percent he or she uses. So some decide to use 25%, which is quite high. Some also use 20%, 15%. Some also, let me say, 10%. So as I change this rate, the value also change. So if I'm using 10% as what I get, this is the 10%, what the 10% is going to give me. And I'll just combine all this together. So once I combine this together, this is the total cost for putting up a foundation. 152,672 Ghana cedis, 85 pesos. Very, very affordable. Sometimes foundations are quite expensive because there are various things that goes into the foundation, especially when the soil is waterlogged, clay in the soil. All of these things also lead to the foundation being quite expensive. So once the foundation is of high quality, you don't really need to worry about water rise, all of these things, settlement, or all of these things. No, we try to give you quality by providing the best. So 152,000 Ghana cedis, 672 cedis. So that's in Ghana cedis. So in dollars, we have our dollar rate here. So at the moment, the dollar is at 12 cedis, 12.2 here, 12.2. So you just divide the Ghana cedis by the dollar rate to get in dollars. So in dollars, that's $12,514 for this foundation. So this, for those in other countries, this value can change depending on the dollar rate. So let's say the dollar reaches, like, let me say 15 cedis per Ghana cedis. That means the price also becomes very good for you guys. So as the dollar goes high, you see your cost also comes down, but we don't really want that here. So yeah, that was it for today's video. As I said earlier, if you already have your drawing plan or your architectural or your structural plans, you can just deliver that to us. We just give you an estimate. If you do not have that, we can prepare some for you, and we can also help you or take you through the construction, give you guidance and everything. If you want us to construct a building too for you, that's another service we provide. So don't forget to just hit me up. My number is just down below. Hit me up and let's talk about how your project you want to build. So I think that's it for today's video. Don't forget to like and also subscribe to the channel so that we actually know that we are actually doing a very good job. So see you guys later. Bye.